The X-Files Revisited is filmed in front of a live studio audience. Oh hey, you guys really caught me at a bad time. I'm kind of in the middle of a bad infestation right now. If you haven't noticed, some weird looking bugs have taken over my house. The exterminator has been working all morning trying to get rid of these pests, but these damn things just won't leave me alone. But seeing how he's going to be at this for some time, we might as well talk about some X-Files. Today we're looking at Darkness Falls, episode 20 of season 1. Debuting April 15th, 1994, Darkness Falls follows agents Mulder and Scully as they have to contend with mysterious insects capable of paralyzing and cocooning their victims while also being trapped in a remote logging cabin. Oh god, they've got a queen! The episode begins in the Olympic National Forest. A bunch of loggers are arguing as something appears to be killing the men.
What are we supposed to do? Just wait here till help arrives?
We have to take a chance. One of us has to hike out.
That person might not make it in time.
They all decide to make a run for it because once night falls, it'll be far too late. The sun sets, but what's that bright light in the distance? One of the guys breaks his leg, so he's definitely a goner. The men hear a strange sound, and when they look up, a large swarm of glowing blood bugs from Fallout take them out. We're with our agents as Mulder points out the manliness of the missing loggers.
What am I looking at?
30 loggers working a clear-cutting contract in Washington State. Rugged, manly men in the full bloom of their manhood.
He's a man, such a man.
Scully asks Mulder what happened to the men, and they simply vanished, or that's the narrative being spun anyways. Get it? Spun? Cocoons? Oh. Mulder tells her about some eco-terrorists, Doug Spinney and Stephen Teague.
This is Doug Spinney and Stephen Teague. They call themselves monkey wrenchers, the guys who drive spikes into trees, sabotage logging equipment, and otherwise make life miserable for lumberjacks and lumber mills.
2 weeks prior, the loggers radioed that Doug and Stephen were up to their usual mischief, but just 1 week later, all radio communication ceased. No one knows why communication was cut off, and 2 federal forest officials were sent in, but they haven't been heard from either. The lumber company and Scully both think the 2 men to be responsible for the missing loggers. Mulder tells Scully the FBI were asked for help on the case, but we know it's for more than just some missing loggers.
Not one of those men was ever found or heard from again.
And you suspect what? Bigfoot?
Not likely. That's a lot of flannel to be choking down, even for Bigfoot.
The agents are going up to the forest to investigate, and we see a logging truck drive by, triggering my PTSD from Final Destination 2. The agents arrive and we meet a forest ranger, Larry Moore. Mulder notices a gunshot in his windshield and Larry claims it's from the eco-terrorists. While he agrees with them in principle, their methods leave much to be desired. A man named Steve Humphreys arrives. He's the head of security for the lumber company and he comes packing. As they enjoy their 4-hour drive through the wilderness, Scully asks why they have to cut down trees so deep into the woods.
Why do these men work so far up in the wilderness?
That's where the trees are.
You're kidding, right?
Mulder asks why the eco-terrorists target them, and this guy just does not hold back.
See these tree huggers? Those are the same kind of boys that had gone up to Canada during the Vietnam War. They're cowardly, and so are their tactics.
He's a man.
Just then, one of the tires gets a flat, courtesy of a lovely homemade tire spike. The dirt road is littered with these things, so it's on foot from here. They arrive at the site, and everything looks much drier than it did just 10 seconds ago. The agents head inside the cabin, but it looks like everyone left in a rush.
Someone forgot to clean their plate.
Looks like they left in a hurry, too.
Mulder finds some quote-unquote party favors left by the men, and it's the 90s, so if they're not getting charged with murder, they're definitely going down for drugs. The radios have all been destroyed, and come on, a car engine is the worst place to cook rice.
Hiya!
The sun is going down in an hour and a half, so Steve is going to go get the generator working while everyone else does some more investigating. The agents and ranger come to the spot where the loggers were cutting down the trees when they notice what looks to be a large cocoon. They should probably keep a lookout for a couple twin fairies. Scully is hoisted up and whew, it looks like it's just cotton candy and not some disgusting nightmare fuel at all.
Nobody stores cotton candy like this.
What are you talking about? Of course it is. Look.
Well, it looks like there's a body inside, and this is where I would be cutting myself loose and dropping straight down to the ground. After some excessive dry heaving, they somehow get the cocoon down and slice it open. Inside they find, well, what used to be one of the loggers.
I think it's a male.
Barely.
And looking at Scully's face, she really has no time for Mulder right now. Strangely, the body inside the cocoon has changed color and position. First the body looks gray and like it's laying on its back, and now it's pinkish in color and almost in a fetal position on its side.
Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Scully questions what kind of insect could pull a grown man into a tree, and it would have to be strong, so I'm thinking maybe Heracross? Steve is working on the generator when he hears a noise, so he grabs his trusty shotgun and goes to investigate. He heads inside the cabin where he finds Doug Spinney, one of the supposed eco-terrorists. He questions Doug on where his men are, but Doug tells him the same place they'll be once the sun goes down.
This animal's Doug Spinney. He's the man responsible for all the monkey wrenching. He's probably a murderer as well.
I'm no murderer.
You're a liar.
Let's just hear what he has to say.
Doug tells them they need to get that generator working, but I don't know why he's being so vague about everything. Just tell them it's goddamn bugs. It is really convenient that Doug didn't destroy the generator though, unlike all the other equipment. Mulder asks him what he meant when he said darkness was their enemy, and Doug tells them about the things that come down at night and devour men whole. Steve doesn't want to believe it, but the others tell him about the body they found. Inside, the agents are questioning Doug, and I really hope that isn't the food that's been sitting out. Let's just say Doug and Steve really don't like one another, but it does look like Steve's crew have been cutting down trees they aren't allowed to.
Well, I got news for you. Your logging crew is taking trees that nobody has a right to, trees that are marked and protected. So don't talk to me about breaking the law, sir.
They've been taking marked trees?
Yes, sir. Marked in orange.
Steve pouts and is about to leave, but Doug tells him not to, as whatever is out there will just eat him alive. Steve asks why it doesn't just come inside and get him, but Doug tells him for whatever reason it's afraid of the light. Steve doesn't believe a word he says, however, and goes outside anyways. He starts openly mocking Doug when we see the creepy crawlies on a tree. Steve goes back inside, but to no one's surprise, Mulder is definitely a believer.
What do you think?
I think I'm gonna suggest that we sleep with the lights on.
The following day, Doug brings them to the logging site and proves the loggers were indeed cutting down trees they had no right to. Mulder then points out an odd-looking ring in the tree. The ranger takes a sample of the ring, but Steven is annoyed that they haven't arrested Doug yet. Mulder doesn't believe him to be responsible for the missing loggers, but Steven does. And I don't know about you, but maybe the two FBI agents should take the gun away from the clearly agitated man. Steve walks off pouting again, saying he's heading back to the truck to call in some people that will actually do something.
Steve?
Oh, let him go. Let him find out for himself.
Yeah, I'm with Doug on this one. Back at the cabin, Larry is looking at the core sample when he notices some kind of bug. He doesn't see any reason for any kind of insect to be living so deep inside the tree. Doug comes inside and tells everyone that immediately after that tree was cut down was when the men started to go missing.
It's about the same time when the loggers disappeared too.
You think these mites are what killed the men?
Maybe they've been lying there dormant for hundreds of years. Maybe they woke up hungry.
Back with Steve as he makes it back to the truck, and oops, looks like he forgot to grab the keys before he took off. It's suddenly night and he's trying to hotwire the damn thing. Steve opens the hood of the truck when he hears something behind him. Thinking it's some of those damn monkey wrenchers, he threatens them with his shotgun, but nope, it's just bugs. He managed to get the truck started, but I guess that flat tire isn't an issue anymore. He drives forward and is stopped by a large boulder that's just suddenly there. The insects are now making their way inside the truck, but wait, now there's a boulder blocking his door? We just saw him hit one boulder, and there wasn't a second one beside it. Well anyways, it doesn't look too good for Stevie boy.
They're squirmy and wormy and purple and green, the grossest little creatures that you've ever seen.
Creepy crawlers.
Build a monster mold with the colored plastic goop and make a creepy crawler from a yucky monster soup. They're ucky, yucky, squirmy, wormy, very scary, sometimes hairy, squiggly, wiggly, creepy crawling.
Creepy crawlers.
Gross out your sister, embarrass your dad. You can be a little creep without being bad.
Creepy Crawlers Workshop with plastic goof.
Back at the cabin, and Scully points out that the bugs are no longer moving. Doug tells them it's the light, they don't like it. Meanwhile, Mulder is running his fingers along the stove and counter, and it looks like there's some kind of oil on everything. Then Mulder comes up with a random theory that maybe these things were deposited during a time of volcanic activity.
What if it's some kind of extinct insect larvae in that ring? Deposited during a period of volcanic activity brought up through the tree's root system? Ancient insect eggs.
Doug seems to relish in the irony that the loggers may have brought down their own demise when they cut down that tree, and then he takes off in a clearly dark room, so he's definitely dead, right? The following morning, old sneaky Doug is up to some shenanigans. He goes outside and steals the remainder of their gas supply, but he's not getting away that easily.
Going somewhere?
No, I'm
Doing a little auto repair.
Doug says he needs to get his friends as they only have enough fuel to run their generator for the next 20 hours, and if he doesn't get back to them, well, they're all dead. He says they have a Jeep that he can grab and get everyone out with, but come on, I mean, there's no way Mulder is just gonna let him go.
He left early this morning. He took a battery and some gas. He's gonna come back for us in the morning.
What, he give you his personal guarantee on that?
He gave me his word, yeah.
Alright, I guess he just did. Well, Mulder got the radio working again, but without the gas can, they need to conserve what little fuel they have left for the coming night. Scully, though, needs Larry to spell out what Mulder did for some reason.
What do you mean?
Your partner let Spinny leave with the last of the gas.
She suggests they use the radio to call for help, but Larry tells her they have to conserve any remaining fuel for the lights tonight. But couldn't they just use the radio tonight when they're running the generator for the lights? Also, Scully's shirt is very big, almost like she's hiding something. Scully enters the cabin with her giant shirt to give Mulder an earful.
Mulder.
Look, it's done. I shouldn't have let him go. Let's just move past it, okay?
Fine. What do you suggest?
The two start arguing over what he did, but Mulder tells her unless they button down the hatches, they're gonna end up just like those men. They start tarping up the windows and preparing for a fun night of cooties. Then they all just sit around and stare at the light bulb. That is, until Scully notices something at the door.
Look, they're coming through the wall down where it's dark. You see them?
A shadow moves over Scully's hand, and she sees these things are all over her. She starts losing her shit, nearly smashing the light bulb in the process. Mulder manages to calm her down, somewhat, by telling her they'll be safe so long as they stay in the light. The generator at this point is just running on fumes. They're sitting around talking about the insects when the light starts to fade as the fuel is nearly all but consumed. Scully worries about what will happen once the generator dies, but Mulder tells her they have 1.5 hours until sunrise, so they'll be just fine. Mulder, however, won't give up on Doug as he gave Mulder his word he would be back. And if you can't trust an eco-terrorist, then who can you trust? The generator finally dies out, but luckily it happens right as the sun is popping up. Mulder and Larry go outside to one of the trucks with the idea of grabbing one of the tires and using it for Larry's truck. So they do just that, rolling the tire along with them. They make it to Larry's truck and the boulder Steve hit looks a lot smaller now than before. They head over to the truck and Steve has seen better days. But perfect timing as Doug arrives with his Jeep, somehow missing all the caltrops he and his friends laid out on the path. Mulder asks where his friends are and they didn't quite make it. Everyone climbs aboard and they haul ass. Oh, I guess I spoke a little too soon about avoiding the caltrops. So I guess Doug and his friends sealed their own fates with their little excursion.
I don't believe it. You talk about shooting yourself in the foot.
And it looks like Larry agrees. Doug goes outside to check the damage when suddenly he's attacked by the swarm. But he's in the Jeep's headlights, so why are they attacking him? Doug takes off running when the bugs start entering the Jeep. But couldn't they just turn the light on inside the Jeep? Do 90s Jeeps not have interior lights? The agents and Larry are completely overcome by the swarm, and I guess that makes this the last X-Files episode. The following morning, some vans pull up, brought to you by General Motors Company. A biohazard team comes out to take care of the issue at hand, but this guy's skin is exposed, so he must work for the Wuhan lab. They open the Jeep and find the dead agents inside covered in the cocoon. Alright, maybe they're not dead. The agents are brought to a high containment facility where they somehow manage to survive. Mulder, lucky to be alive, checks on Scully, who would have died had she been left for another couple hours. He asks one of the men how exactly they're going to contain these insects to the forest.
The government has initiated eradication procedures. They're quite certain that by using a combination of controlled burns and pesticides, they will be successful.
Mulder then asks what if they're not successful, and he simply tells Mulder that isn't an option. Darkness Falls is one of my favorite episodes. Sure, I had fun picking it apart, but this is one I can always go back to. I'm not even sure why I like it so much. Thinking about it, there's nothing that really stands out. It's just a fun Monster of the Week episode. I think we can all relate to some respect of having bugs in our house where they really aren't wanted. The idea of cutting open an old tree and unleashing these insects that have been dormant for hundreds of years isn't too dissimilar to the episode Ice, although the paranoia wasn't so much about who was infected, but instead staying in the light. The fact that these things were literally all over everyone all the time, just waiting for the darkness, only compounded this fear. And I think a fear of the dark is a big thing for a lot of people. Darkness Falls has an 8.4 on IMDb, and I think it's an 8. It's an enjoyable episode. It can really give you the creeps if you're afraid of insects, but just grab the entomologist perk and you'll be just fine. The episode was written by series creator Chris Carter, who was influenced by his interest in tree ring dating, which he had studied while in college. He had thought if there are trees thousands of years old, then what if there's something hidden deep inside? Something that lay dormant and would come out once the tree was cut down. Chris wanted to do an episode about insects, nests, and cocoons, and devised the episode about insects that are released and sort of hold the agents hostage in one spot. The episode was devised as a bottle episode that is generally cheaper to make and usually only takes place in one spot, but weather made this somewhat difficult. The first day of filming, Chris got up and it was a blizzard outside. From that day on, nothing would ever really match up. It would rain, then snow, and everything would just become mud. Despite the constant bad weather, the crew did everything they could to carry on with filming. If you couldn't tell by Scully's large shirt, well, Gillian Anderson was kind of pregnant at the time of filming. Because of this, she would often get sick, which would halt production of the episode. Jason Beige.
Beige? It's B-E-G-H-E.
Played the role of Larry Moore. Jason is one of David's real-life best friends as they both bartended together and studied when they were up-and-coming actors. This actually helped ease the tension of what was a miserable shoot because they were always making each other laugh. Of his experience on the show, Jason said, "We had a ball. All we did was laugh the entire time. Being on the program was like working with your family." He's appeared in a lot of movies and TV shows over the years, but he's probably best known for appearing in over 207 episodes in the hit TV series Chicago PD. Darkness Falls is a good episode that will make most people feel like they have something crawling on their skin. I definitely recommend checking it out if you never have. However, if you're watching this, you have probably seen it already. Check back next time as we take a look at the return of everyone's favorite stretchy liver-eating mutant in Tombs. Let me know your thoughts on this episode down in the comments, and if you could please like, subscribe, and share this video out with your friends, it would mean a lot to me. As for me, well, we've given up on trying to get rid of the bugs from my house, so we're gonna have to nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Thank you for watching, and stay spooky.
Deep in the forest, a killer has slept for 500 years.
Come from the sky. Should take a man and devour him alive.
This Friday, the terror awakens.
We'll be safe as long as we stay in the light.
And Agent Scully and Mulder will be its next victims.
Get him off me!
The X-Files, Friday at 9, 8 Central.